Hello everyone, Mariko Berg, Realtor with Bridgewell Real Estate Group, and in today's YouTube channel video, I am going to be talking about the Home Buyer Rescission Period, also known as the HBRP for short, or the 3-day cooling off period. So this is going to be coming into effect in January of 2023. I think this is a very important topic. If you don't know about it already, I'm going to be covering what the HBRP is. I'm going to be going over what type of property it applies to, how long the HBRP is for, what the penalties are if you invoke that rescission, and a lot of frequently asked questions, because I feel like there is a lot of confusion when it comes to this topic, not just for consumers, but also for industry professionals. The BCFSA, which is the governing board for realtors, just recently held a Zoom, and I can't tell you how many questions there were. So I do want to cover important FAQs just to make sure that you guys really understand what's going on, and can obviously remain educated. And before I get into that, I do just want to do a plug. If you have not been to my channel before, please make sure to subscribe. I talk about all things real estate, specifically in my target areas, which are the Greater Vancouver and Fraser Valley areas, but obviously touch on things that are BC-wide, Canada-wide as well. So as I said, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, if you're interested in real estate in any of those areas. If you have been here before and you're already subscribed, welcome back. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. And if you are looking for a realtor to buy, sell, or invest within the Lower Mainland area, then definitely feel free to reach out to me anytime. So now getting into a very dense topic, and so I hope that this is easy enough to follow along with. First things first, I just want to start off with what is this home buyer rescission period? Just really basic. So HBRP is the short version of the home buyer rescission period. It's also referred to as the 3-day cooling off period, or just the cooling off period. So if you hear any of those terms, it's all synonymous with what I'm talking about. Now, the home buyer rescission period is a period where a home buyer can rescind their offer once it's already accepted. So I will say that I think that the intention behind this, just from reading through the lines and kind of interpreting it myself, is really geared mostly towards subject-free offers, which we're not experiencing as much anymore. But I am going to get into kind of like why I think that a little bit later on in the video. But for the purpose of explaining what the HBRP is, it's essentially once you get an accepted offer, you have a 3-day period after you have that accepted offer to be able to think about whether or not you actually want to move forward with that purchase. So you see this in a similar fashion in the presale industry right now. So you have a 7-day right of rescission in the presale industry, where you can basically back out for whatever reason, whether that be for financing, whether that be for, I changed my mind, whatever. So it's kind of a duplicate of that, but just a shorter version. So this is different than a subject removal period. A subject removal period is your time to be able to do your due diligence, but if you are backing out, you're backing out with relation to a specific subject that you've written on the contract. So if you only have a subject to financing, you can't just say, oh, I'm backing out because I, have an issue with this inspection. No, you had no right to that inspection. It has to be with regards to the subject that you put on the contract. The home buyer rescission period is a little bit different. You're backing out for whatever reason. It could just be that you got cold feet. So 3-day right of rescission for any reason that the buyer deems necessary. It's a cooling off period. I think a lot of people are going to use it as a time to do due diligence, right? Maybe just check in with your mortgage broker once you get an accepted offer, and make sure that you actually can get financing. And again, this is why I think that it is more relevant for subject-free offers, because if you're subject-free, you don't have any of those subjects to protect you, right? So that 3-day right of rescission is really important for you to be able to do that added due diligence. But if you have subjects already, the subject removal period is likely going to be more beneficial for you, because it's typically a little bit longer than 3 days in most situations, and you can add extra subjects, or you can add extra rights or clauses to be able to access the property. So before I get into too much more than that, I think that just gives you a rough idea of exactly what it is and what the purpose is. Now, this applies only to residential real property. by definition. So a couple examples of this are, a condo, townhouse, duplex, triplex, fourplex, a detached home, semi-detached home, manufactured home, affixed to land. It does have to be freehold property though. And that's a really important distinction because leasehold property does not apply when we're considering residential real property. So you can think of examples like Simon Fraser University, parts of UBC, False Creek in Vancouver is another example of some leasehold land. Towason's First Nation, that's leasehold land as well. So if you're purchasing leasehold land, this 3-day right of rescission is not going to apply, okay? The other thing that it's not going to apply to is pre-sales. So pre-sales is a completely different ball game. It's all done under REDMA, and they already have a 7-day right of rescission that I had briefly touched on earlier. So that 7-day right of rescission for pre-sales is still going to apply. It's not going to have an additional redundant 3-day rescission period. So pre-sales, this does not apply. It's also not going to apply to things like court-ordered sales or sales at auction. Those are really the big ones I picked out, but obviously check for a full list online at what the HBRP will apply to or not apply to. But I think that those are the big ones. Now, the next thing that I want to go through is this 3 business days. So 3 business days. When do the business days start? So if you get an accepted offer on a Thursday, right? Let's say you get an accepted offer on a Thursday night at 6:00, right? Your first business day is not going to apply until the next day. So Friday is when it's going to start. Then it's, assuming it's a standard weekend and not a long weekend, it's going to be Friday and then Monday and then Tuesday. So Tuesday, end of day, 11:59 is when you have to say whether or not you're moving forward past that rescission period if you got an accepted offer on Thursday. So 3 business days, the business day starts the next day, assuming it's not a weekend, and it also does not apply on holidays that are recognized. So say Easter, Truth and Reconciliation Day, things like that. So that is that. The fee. So there is a fee that applies if you invoke your right of rescission. So again, let's take a situation where we have a subject-free offer. Let's say we have a subject-free offer with a deposit in hand, and it is accepted at $1 million. Now, the deposit is held in trust by the buyer's agent's brokerage in most situations. There's going to be a 3-day rescission period. Let's say that on the 2nd day, the buyer realizes, oh, I actually can't get financing. My mortgage broker says it's not going to work for this property. I'm backing out and I'm invoking my right of rescission. Now, you would owe 0.25% of the purchase price. So on $1 million purchase, that is $2,500 that gets returned back to the seller as a compensation for invoking right of rescission. The buyer's agent's brokerage would be required to assist in the payout of that to the seller because the deposit is already being held, and the remainder of the deposit would be returned back to the buyer. So that is really just the original basis of how this home buyer rescission period works. It allows you to be able to perform due diligence or have some time to think about your purchase in the event that you may not have had the opportunity, say a subject-free offer, and still provides the seller with an option for compensation. Now, getting into more of the frequently asked questions of this, I think that really where a lot of the confusion comes into play is that we are not experiencing as many subject-free offers right now. So we have subject removal periods on most of our offers, and there's a lot of questions with regards to how this is relevant in this market, why we should do this, can we waive it, all of these things. So that's what I'm going to get into in the next part of this video. So first things first, I want to explain what happens when a deposit is not being held. So the reason why this is relevant is because right now, a lot of the times we have an accepted offer and then we have a subject removal period. and a subject removal period is usually in the range of 5 to 7 days, okay? So typically that deposit is not due until after subjects are removed. So people's question becomes, if you have an accepted offer and a deposit has not been given and I invoke my right of rescission, how does the seller get paid out? And the answer is that that's between the buyer and the seller. The buyer should be told and should have an understanding that 0.25% of the purchase price is required to be paid to the seller if they invoke their right of rescission. And that can be by form of check, it can be by form of bank draft, it can be however they decide to give it to each other. But if a deposit has not already been held, then what holds that buyer accountable to doing that, right? Because when a deposit is held, the brokerage just automatically pays out the seller, and the brokerage is going to, I guess, keep that buyer responsible or liable in a way. But if it is a situation where the deposit is not collected, then it's kind of just the buyer in good faith agrees to give that 0.25%, which I think is where there is a lot of confusion. If a buyer does not give that 0.25%, the seller can hire legal representation and they can go after them. So I think that that's something that's important to know as a buyer. But I think that it is a concern within the industry whether or not buyers will actually move forward and be providing the deposits to these sellers in a timely manner. So that's one thing that comes up quite frequently. Now, the second thing that comes up very frequently is this whole idea of when you have a rescission period and subjects running concurrently. So when you have an accepted offer, let's say again you have a 7-day subject removal period and you've got standard subjects, financing, title search, inspection, property disclosure statements, maybe strata documents if you have a strata property, and insurance, okay? So let's say that that's 7 days long, but you have a 3-day rescission period. So if during that 3-day rescission period you can't get financing, a lot of people are like, okay, well, I'm in within the 3-day rescission period, but I can't get financing and I had a subject to financing. Do I owe the seller 0.25%? Because I'm invoking it during this 3-day rescission period? And the answer is no, okay? If you have subjects on a contract and you are backing out, whether it's during the 3-day rescission period or during your subject removal period, if you're backing out with regards to a subject that you have on a contract, doesn't matter when during that period of time you do it, even if it's during the 3-day rescission period, you do not owe the seller 0.25% of the purchase price, okay? So yeah, that's that answer. I'm not going to elaborate on that too much more. But that's how that works. So I think that this is really why a lot of people are very confused about what the point of this rescission period is when we already have subjects on a contract. And I know that I don't really talk a lot about like political things or like opinions on this channel, but I will briefly touch on this. I think that really the intention was that it is more beneficial for subject-free offers, and it's supposed to prevent people from not being able to perform due diligence on subject-free offers. And this is really where we see this HBRP providing the most amount of benefit for people and protecting people. Now, obviously, the timing is very off. The market has changed. There are very commonly subjects on a property. We're not seeing anywhere near as many multiple offers, if any. And as a result of that, we're not seeing as many subject-free offers. So a lot of people are asking, like, how is this relevant? Like, I'm confused. Why are we doing this if there are subjects on the contract already? And, you know, in reality, a subject in most situations is probably going to be more beneficial for you than this HBRP. Unless you are in a situation where you're in a very competitive market, it's very hot, and you feel like you have to put a subject-free offer. And that really was the case, like pretty much all through 2021 into like the first first 3 months at least of 2022. Like, it was crazy, and really, like, you would lose so many times just to get to the point where you were like, you know what, I know I have to go subject free, and it was unfortunate. So I think that, this makes a lot of sense when it comes to subject free offers. Will it potentially create some issues even with subject free offers? Yes, I could see it creating issues. There are people out there that go and will write offers on multiple properties just to see which one they can get and then just back out and maybe not give the 0.25%. I think that is a concern for sure. But most people, like good people, good realtors, are going to say, no, you can write one offer at a time. And, this is how it's going to happen. If you don't provide, if you don't move forward, you're going to have to pay the 0.25%. And I really hope that in practice, people move forward with this in good faith and actually do follow the rules. But if you are thinking this doesn't make a lot of sense in this market, it's because, things move slow and the market changed from the time that they started dealing with the issue at hand, and when this is actually being implemented, they're about 9 months behind, if not more. So that is my opinion on that. Last but not least, just because we were touching on subject free offers, I want to just clarify for everybody that a common question that comes up is, does the HBRP provide automatic right to access the property? The answer is no. So where does this come into effect? Again, subject free offers, right? A lot of the times people were freaking out because the two that are really the hardest to do due diligence in advance are financing and inspection. So things like title search, insurance, strata documents, property disclosure statement, those are documents or processes that you can, review reasonably in advance of the offer. And so they're subjects that are relatively easy to remove prior to writing, and you still get to do your due diligence. Now, financing, there are two parts to financing. There's the part where you actually get pre-approved, and then they approve you as yourself, and then they also approve the property itself. They can't really approve the property itself until you have an accepted offer. So that's where the financing part gets a little bit scary when you're doing a subject-free offer. The inspection obviously costs a lot of money, right? And inspection is anywhere between $400 to $800 depending on the size of the property, whether it's a condo, a detached, a townhouse, all those things. And so when you're writing subject free offers and you're losing multiple times because the market's so crazy, that's a lot of money to invest in inspections prior to writing the offer, doing a pre-inspection without really even knowing whether or not you're going to get that property. So those are really the two that during the time that subject frees were really relevant, or prevalent, we were having a hard time removing in advance, I would say. So the home buyer rescission period kind of helps with that, right? It helps with some time for your mortgage broker, 3 days, to be able to look into financing for you, right? And it potentially provides you some time to be able to do an inspection, but it does not provide you with an automatic right to access the property during that 3 days. So if you are looking to use it for the purpose of, say, an inspection or maybe an appraisal, you have to put a term in your contract saying that you are you have a right to be able to access the property for things like trades, appraisal, measurements, inspections, things like that, right? So just make sure that if you are looking to access the property within that 3-day rescission period, that you have a term in there to be able to access the property. Again, that's more relevant for subject free offers. If you already have a subject to inspection, you don't really need to add that in. But regardless of whether you have subject to financing, subject to inspection or not, personally, me and my contracts, I still have an access clause, but that's up to you. I just want to clarify that if you have a subject, in a lot of cases, you're already covered. But if you do not have subjects and you're subject free, the HBRP rescission period does not automatically give you that right to access the property. So those were really the big FAQs that I wanted to cover. And again, even in my original explanations, there are FAQs kind of sprinkled in throughout there as well. So as a recap, what type of property does this apply to? It applies to residential real property. What are the big exemptions that you're going to see this not apply to? Pre-sales is a big one. It's still going to have the 7-day right of rescission period. Leasehold properties is a huge one. Make sure you're aware that leasehold properties do not get this automatic right of rescission. court-ordered sales, sales at auctions. Those are the big ones that I've covered here. When does this start? 3 business days, beginning the day after your offer gets accepted. Holidays are not included, weekends are not included, so make sure you're aware of that. And it's always the end of the day, so 11:59 technically. What happens if you invoke your 3-day right of rescission? You have to pay a fee to the seller that is 0.25% of the purchase price. If a deposit is already held, then that amount gets deducted. The 0.25% gets deducted from the deposit that you had held. If a deposit has not been held, as a buyer, you are required to give that amount, that 0.25%, to the seller once you have revoked in a timely manner, or once you have rescinded your offer in a timely manner. And what happens if the buyer does not give that? Then the seller could hire legal representation and go after them for that 0.25%. Does the HBRP, excuse me, does the HBRP provide an automatic right to access the property? Nope. It absolutely does not. You have to add a clause in there if you want to have right to access the property again. And what happens if you have a subject removal period and a rescission period running concurrently, and you decide to you decide to rescind your offer during the rescission period, but it's due to a subject? Do you have to pay the rescission fee? No, you don't. If you are backing out with regards to a subject that you have already listed on your contract, regardless of whether it is during the subject removal period or within the 3-day rescission period, if you back out with regards to your subject, you do not owe the 0.25%. And then last but not least, why is this relevant in this market? Again, I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think that this is really more applicable to subject-free offers, but they're late to the party, and we are now experiencing this concurrently with subject offers. It doesn't always make sense. It adds a little bit of confusion, but again, this is why I'm putting this video together, just so that you guys understand how it works with subjects, how it works without subjects. And I do still think that there will be benefit for this moving forward once the market starts to pick up again, which it will inevitably. So again, I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you are confused about what is coming into effect even after watching this video, or it's a little bit heavy, don't be surprised. This is something that a lot of people really need to study, and then I had to study myself personally as well. So don't hesitate to watch this video a couple times back, just review question by question, and of course leave any comments down below if you have any personal feelings about this, but also if you have questions in general about how this is going to work, or an FAQ that I did not cover already. Again, my name is Mariko Berg. I am a realtor with Bridgewell Real Estate Group. We're a local team. We're one of the top teams in the Greater Vancouver area and the Tri-Cities area specifically. If you are looking to buy, sell, or invest, definitely feel free to reach out to myself and my team. We would be absolutely happy to help you. We've been very active throughout this market. Even though it has been a slower market, we've been really busy with listings. We've been busy with sales, first-time home buyers getting in because they're worried about rates going up, and obviously getting priced out from the rate side of things. Forget about the price side of things. So things have really changed, but we have a very strong grasp and pulse of the market. So if you are looking for somebody that still knows what's going on and is very in touch based on personal experience and sales, and is been involved in both listings and purchases very recently on a weekly basis, actually, despite the market slowing down, then definitely we are your people to call. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I told you guys, leave a comment down below, and I hope to provide a lot more videos to you throughout the remainder of 2023. Now that we have expanded our team a little bit, it frees up a lot of my time to be able to focus a lot more on the educational side of things. So I am very excited for that, and I wish you all the best in 2023. Lots of happiness, joy, health, wealth, all of that jazz, and good energy moving forward. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.